Family reunion reveals dark family secrets. My name is Chloe, and for most of my life, my family was just my mom, Linda, and me. My father was a photograph, a story about a car accident when I was 2. Mom never remarried, never even really dated. She said we were a perfect, self-contained unit. Our life in the quiet suburb of Oakhaven was simple, predictable, and a little lonely, but it was ours. Everything changed 3 months after my 23rd birthday. Mom had been acting strange, jumpy, checking the locks twice, staring blankly at her phone. I finally cornered her one night over a pot of overcooked spaghetti. "It's your cousin," she blurted out, her face pale. "David, he's getting out." I almost laughed. "Cousin David? Mom, I don't have a cousin David." The story tumbled out of her, a narrative I'd never heard. My father hadn't been an only child. He had a younger brother, Uncle Rick. Rick had a son, David. Our families were close, until a hunting trip when David was 14 and my father was 24. There was an accident, a single, tragic gunshot. My father died. David claimed it was a horrific mistake, a stumble, a branch catching a trigger. The investigation ruled it accidental, but a rift of grief and unspoken suspicion tore the families apart. Mom cut all ties. Rick's family moved away. David, she told me, spiraled. By 18, he was into drugs, petty crime, and eventually, at 19, he was convicted of aggravated assault during a robbery. He'd just served 12 years. He reached out, Mom whispered, clutching her hands together. Through Facebook, he said he's a changed man. Found God in prison, wants to make amends, to meet you, the only family he has left. I was reeling. A father I'd mourned as a victim of fate was now a victim of a family tragedy. And a cousin, a living, breathing connection to him, existed. Mom was vehement. "He's manipulative, Chloe. Prison doesn't change a person's core. He's dangerous. Promise me you'll have nothing to do with him." But I couldn't promise. He was a puzzle piece to a picture I'd never seen. Against her tearful protests, I found him online. His profile was sparse, a generic landscape photo, a few Bible verse shares. I sent a tentative message. He replied instantly. His words were polite, soaked in regret. He spoke of my father with a reverence that made my heart ache. He didn't ask for money, just a chance to talk, to explain. We moved to texting, then calls. His voice was soft, calm. He acknowledged his past with shame and spoke of his rehabilitation program, his job at a warehouse, his small apartment. He sounded normal, sincere. After a month, I agreed to meet at a public cafe, in broad daylight. Mom didn't speak to me for 2 days leading up to it. When I saw him, it was like seeing a ghost of my father. He had the same jawline, the same way of holding his shoulders. But his eyes were older, etched with lines of hard living. He cried when he saw me. He showed me a worn photograph of him as a boy with my father, arm around his shoulders. He detailed the accident with a halting, painful clarity that felt too raw to be fabricated. "I loved him so much," David said, wiping his eyes. "Living with it, it's why I broke. I understand why your mother hates me. I just wanted you to know him a little, through me." I was won over. Here was family, a chance to expand our tiny, wounded unit. I started seeing him weekly. He was always respectful, never asked for anything. I even lent him $200 when his car broke down, which he paid back in exact cash a week later. To me, this was proof of his integrity. I began pushing for him to meet Mom. "She needs to see you've changed," I argued. He was reluctant, fearful, which I misread as humility. After weeks of pressure from me, he finally agreed to come for a Sunday dinner. The day was a disaster. Mom was ice cold, setting only 2 places before I forcefully added a third. David brought flowers, which she left in the plastic wrap. Over meatloaf, he tried to engage her in gentle conversation about my father. She put her fork down. "You don't get to say his name," she said, her voice quiet and deadly. "You took him from me. You took a father from Chloe. No prison sentence or Bible gives that back." David looked shattered. He stood up. mumbled an apology, and left. I was furious. He's trying. Mom, why can't you see that? You're blind. Chloe, there's something off. I feel it in my bones. Our fight was nuclear. I moved out a week later, into a cheap apartment, partly to be closer to David. He was my ally, the only one who understood my frustration. He helped me move, a solid, quiet presence. Then, the cracks began to show. First, it was the story about his parole officer being out to get him, needing money for a mandatory drug test he swore he'd pass. I gave him $150. Then, his key card for work failed, and he needed $75 for a replacement. Small things, but they started adding up. He'd call late at night, his voice edgy, talking in circles about people from his past, testing his resolve. The turning point was a Thursday. He was supposed to come fix my leaky faucet. When he didn't show, I drove to his apartment, a run-down complex on the south side. His door was ajar. I pushed it open, calling his name. The place was empty, not just empty of him, but of everything. No furniture, no boxes. In the middle of the bare living room floor sat 3 items, the photo of him and my father he'd shown me, my $150 cash in an envelope with my name on it, and a small, worn notebook. My heart pounding, I picked up the notebook. It was a journal. The early entries were from prison, full of anger and blame. But the recent ones, they were about me. Chloe is the key. So trusting. Linda's fortress has a weak spot, her love for her daughter. She believes the accident story. It's easier than the truth. The final entry, dated 2 days prior, made my blood turn to ice. The old man was right. The guilt is a tool. But I'm tired of playing the penitent. Linda sees through it. Chloe's money is drying up. Time for the final play. The life insurance policy from Dad's death. Linda's the beneficiary. If something happened to Chloe, Linda would break. And broken people are easy to manipulate. Or remove. Then it's all mine. The ultimate amends. I stumbled back, the notebook falling from my hands. The old man, Uncle Rick. It wasn't just David. This was a sickness that ran in that branch of the family. The accident wasn't an accident. And my father's death. I couldn't finish the thought. I vomited right there on the bare floorboards. I drove to my mother's house in a blind panic. I burst in, sobbing, shoving the notebook at her. She read it, her face hardening into a mask of grim vindication and terror. She didn't say, "I told you so." She just hugged me tighter than she ever had and called the police. David vanished. The police found his car abandoned at a bus station in a neighboring state. The money he returned was from his final score. He'd robbed a convenience store the night before. Uncle Rick, living in Florida, was interviewed but had a solid alibi and expressed shock and dismay at his son's actions. There was nothing to directly tie him to the journal's implications. We are not okay. I live back with my mom now. The locks are new, the security system is top of the line, and we both jump at shadows. The family I thought I was gaining was a mirage, a predatory fiction. I learned a horrific lesson. Sometimes, the void in your history exists for a reason. Some mysteries beg to be solved. Others are gaping wounds, carefully stitched shut by those who love you, and picking at those stitches only invites in a poison you never knew was waiting. The guilt I carry is different from David's. Mine is for not trusting the woman who spent a lifetime protecting me from a truth, and a family, too monstrous for me to bear. And every day, we both wonder if the uninvited guest from our past will ever decide to knock on our door again.
Comment what you think about this story. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more.